Hey guys, on this episode I'll be taking you through the process of converting my lawn into a food forest. So first off, we're going to give you a tour of my property here. This is the front yard, and I've already planted an apple tree I had at my townhouse from before. And going over to the backyard, I've got quite a bit of space back here. I've got a nice back deck that I might convert into a greenhouse. I have a few limitations back here, including a clean-out pipe and a gas line. Here you can see what it looks like in summertime. It's quite dry. This was filmed last year when I was buying the house in July. On the left side here, you can see I have a lilac and a quince bush, as well as a plum tree that I moved. So this is what it looks like in the summertime last July, and you can see on the quince, this is a flowering quince, not a quince tree, and it does have some fruit on it, which is nice. This first tree here is a plum tree. You can see in the back right against the wall there's a few plums on it, and beside it is actually a maple tree that has rooted from across the street on like a 50 or 100-year-old maple tree. It just shot a root across and under the ground and popped up there. So first off, I rented a rototiller. This thing cost me $50 for 2 days because I rented it on a Saturday afternoon and they were closed on Sunday. So I actually finished the entire backyard before I started filming just because I didn't want to be looking like a goof trying to figure out how to do this. So first off, you just want to take the rototiller and just go over the land like this, and it will chop up the grass into chunks. Now if you have the cash, it's better to actually rent the special tool that the sod companies use that will chop off the grass so they can roll it up. So it's actually like a blade. It just slices the top layer and then they roll it up into that nice roll. But for my case here, I just rented the rototiller and chopped up the top layer, and then you get all these grass chunks. And afterwards, then I pulled out my rake, and I just started raking all this stuff. Now I will say this was an obscene amount of work. I'd spent about 8 hours the first day, and then on the Sunday I spent 16 hours to do the whole yard. And you basically just rake. I pulled everything to the side, the first initial layer, and then I started raking out the middle and just try to get all the grass out. A few additional notes: if you're planning on doing this, the rototiller, it's quite heavy and it takes quite a bit of strength to move around. That was the biggest one I could get, is an industrial Honda one. If you just let it go, it'll chop up the top layer, where if you actually pull back on it really hard, it'll dig really deep. So you can get it to go down like 2 or 3 feet and really churn everything up. It is really effective, but I mean, if you have the cash, it's better to rent a special tool to chop off the top layer so you can roll up the sod. I don't even know what the tool is to do that, but there's a special thing that will cut your grass off. In general though, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I do have quite a bit of grass popping up in random spots, but it's not like huge patches. They're just single blades which actually can be pulled out pretty easily. I found over time I was getting quite exhausted, and since it was a rental, I was limited by my time. At first I was raking the grass normally, but my arms became so tired that I had to start raking across my body, leaning my back towards the grass and trying to use my lats, as it was pretty much the only muscle I had left that wasn't totally burned out. Here you can see this is the real-time speed of my raking. I'm just trying to go over everything. What I ended up doing is breaking up the raking and the rototillering, so after I got too exhausted, I would go rototiller another part and then come back and do it. So here we have my backyard, what it looked like before and afterwards. So you can see I got a nice plot here to actually grow something. There's not much grass left over. And here's a shot from the back alley. So you can see it's nice and loose and in a good environment to start growing. The top of the plot there is actually quite nice. The soil was pretty decent. And here's a shot from the bottom. The bottom here, it was not very good. It's quite rocky. Around 2 o'clock every day, I get visitors to my yard. So there's quite a few deer because I live right on a green belt, and the deer always eat in my yard. So they came by and they were kind of confused what's going on. You can see another one in the back there. While deer seem kind of cute, they're actually a menace and they'll eat all your crops. And they can jump over 6 feet tall. So to keep deer out of your yard, it's a big task, and you'll see in the future videos on how I do this. So here's the front yard. And afterwards, from another angle, I did a circular rototiller around that brick wall, which I wanted to plant some corn. Now here I have the lilac, the plum tree, and the quince. And afterwards, you can see I rototillered a nice little L-shaped around the building there, so I can put in some tomatoes and cucumbers because it's super hot in that spot. So you can see here I pulled out a ton of concrete blocks and bricks. There used to be an old oil furnace on the side of the house, and a truck would come in and pump a bunch of oil into the oil tank, and then that would get fed in through the bottom. There's like a little patch there, and that goes into the oil furnace. But since there's been a new gas furnace put in the house, but there used to be that concrete block pad there that the oil furnace was sitting on, and then someone planted a plum tree in the middle, and then that maple tree from across the street had just sprouted up in that hole. So I had to move those trees pretty immediately after I moved here, just because they're in risk of damaging the foundation, and then I had to dig up all those bricks, which was quite a bit of work. If you have any comments about this process, leave it down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to follow my journey in converting my lawn into a food forest, subscribe to the channel. Until next one, have a great day.